give me a minute. Put the glove on again. Yeah, so I accidentally carved the last video. So this will be the second upload. Yeah, but I don't know, I tend to obsess over things. Like this lady asking whether I want small or large, and then I say regular. And then she's like, oh, regular, okay. And I'm like, I swear like regular is the most common one that like people ask for, so I swear like it would normally be, if someone doesn't specify, I would have thought they would just give regular. Otherwise I would have thought if they're gonna ask, they may as well present all options. Maybe they only sell small or large, and then when I ask for regular, rather than just tell me that, oh, we only do small or large, we don't do regular, and then I'll be like, okay, small, because I know that one will be free. Rather than do that, she doesn't tell me, so I'm like well confused. But I don't know, I'm tend to be sensitive to confusing people that just confuse me. Like I wish things were just clear, you know, like sometimes I just prefer it, like if you go to a coffee shop and like, you know, you don't even have to say, like, it's just, you know, it's just one type of milk. There's just whole milk. You don't have to specify whole milk. There's only one size. You don't have to specify which size, which is so much easier. And then you don't have to like say the whole thing of like, oh, I would like a regular latte with whole milk to take away. And then even that's not enough, because like they don't, do you want small or large? I'm like, just regular. I don't know. I know I'm obsessive, but there's no point in trying to hide away from it. This is the way I am. And like I always say to myself when these obsessions come up, no, you're just obsessing, just let it go. And like deep down, I do want to let it go. But then I'll be lying to myself if I said that I do let these things go. But like on the face of it, these things look really insignificant, but I suppose they're a trigger for, you know, they're a trigger for things that have happened in the past where nothing makes sense, you know? Things are always confusing. Things are always like pointlessly confusing and like there's pointless rules. Like I still remember when I went to collect my GCSE results, and like they wanted you to bring a brown envelope for the GCSE results to go in, so you can take it home in an envelope. So you leave the envelopes there and they put it in. And I only had a white envelope. So I gave it to them and they were like, well, we did specify that you did need to bring a brown envelope. And I only had a brown. And I think to myself, dude, like, seriously? Like, it's gotta be, you. Like, why does it matter what color my envelope is when I'm the one taking it back? This is my, you know what I mean? Like, you're just putting the results in and then everyone collects the envelope to take it home. Why do you care what color the envelope is? You're only using it to put my results in, and then I collect it and take it home. You're not using it to post it. You're not using it for your own archives. So why do you care what color the envelope is? So when I had things like that happen, now when there's like things that feel like they're just pointlessly confusing, I don't know whether this is an autistic trait or not. I don't even think it matters how you want to define it. I really don't. But, you know, I remember my therapist a few years back said to me, it's a combination of your disorganized household where your household would just have an easier time, if my parents just sort of like followed the school rules and encouraged me to follow the rules and everything was more orderly and disciplined. It's a combination of a troubled home life combined with school stupidity, which then just makes things even worse. I mean, that's minor compared to what like other things that have happened, but things like that are what like the trigger is, just stupid rules, or like school, pointless uniforms and stuff. We had like everyone. I went to a Jewish school, so everyone had to wear like a head covering, and I used to hate wearing it, and like you have to tuck your shirt in. And I'm like, I think to myself, looking back now, I'm like, really? Like, it really matters what people wear? Like, I guess it does to an extent, but does it have to be a uniform? And I'm thinking like, what good does it do? I don't know, except like cost a household that doesn't have much money, it's gonna just cost a big part of their budget. Like the uniforms were expensive, like the blazers, like £70, something like that. This was years ago, it's like 1999, the uniform costed a lot. It's like you could just wear cheap, I don't know, you could wear a robe, you could dress like a monk, it wouldn't even matter, like who cares? And then also you couldn't shave your head, like there was a rule with how short you can have your hair. And now, as I sort of like got more interested in Buddhism, and I kind of like the idea, and I think it's pretty cool that they shave their heads. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, like pretty cool, but there's something in that. There's something really wholesome in that, that they shave their heads, that they let go of all the attachments of beauty and all of that. And I was thinking, well, you couldn't have your hair too short, like who cares, like who cares how short someone's hair is? Like, I swear, like a person can manipulate people much easier, like play much more games with long hair or with hair that wasn't short. Like if you look at the way that politicians and YouTubers and celebrities and everyone sort of charms the public, sort of manipulates the public into sort of following their way, which is generally just a road to hell. They make their hairstyles and their physical appearance, they make it pretty attractive, they make it pretty stylish. It's not to put this limit on, you can't have your hair too short. And I think it was because of this, this was sort of like a bourgeois Jewish secondary school. It was a state school, but because you had to be Jewish to get in, and it had kind of like a high standard of education, and because of the location, and just because it sort of attracted mainly Ashkenazi Jews, but Sephardi Jews as well. It's like, put it this way, people came from wealthier backgrounds than most. So I think that the reason why they had rules like that on the uniform, and particularly like you couldn't have your hair shorter than like a number 1, like you couldn't be skinhead, you had to be a certain length, and that was because they didn't want people going to that school that would then cause an association with, I don't know, skinheads, lower class, maybe. That's I don't know, I'm just assuming that's the way they may think. Like, I'm not saying I don't have any of my own prejudices. I have some which like bubble up sometimes, which I'm trying to let go of, but it was really like they didn't want people to be associated. They didn't want they wanted people to look at the school and think, okay, they're representing Jews how we want Jews represented. They're representing our school the way we want to represent it. And the reason why they were so concerned about the reputation is because as a religious state school, they have to constantly reinforce why they should even get the extra funding, why they should be funded by the government if they only let in people from a certain religious group, i.e. in this case Jews. Well, why should that, if the government, if it's a Christian country or if the government is secular, why should that be funded by the state? And even more so, why should then people have to pay, you have to be a member of a synagogue, so that's synagogue fees. Your mother has to be Jewish generally, although they've changed those rules anyway. And you have to pay what's called the Jewish studies fees, which means that the Jewish studies teachers, I think, may have got paid more, but I'm not sure about that. But like, there were extra fees. I think at times, my mum was like, couldn't afford to pay it, so she would just make any case, say like, I can't afford it. Or did she pay it? I think maybe she did scrape it together, managed to pay it. But there was definitely it was definitely a bit of a stretch, because these fees weren't cheap, and it was for something which really I couldn't really care less learning about much of it. It was all just, a lot of it was just a lot of hot air, which I feel I tend to give out a lot of hot air. But there was a lot of neuroticism within this group of Jewish studies teachers and the whole way that it was taught. And so all of this money that's flowing towards this, which is basically a system of indoctrination with class and religious background and race and all of these things mixed into it, how I had to keep its funding, to keep these streams of money coming through, they have to represent themselves in a certain way, which people look at it and be like, yeah, I'm going to put money towards that. So they didn't want people to look a certain way. They didn't want people to look like what they would call maybe skinheads or lower class, or, not meaning to be offensive, but like council estate tenants. I don't know, I'm just saying, like, as I said, most people came from a certain background. I think you'd be lucky if maybe one or two people in that whole school lived in a council house. I didn't live in a council house. I lived in a privately owned house, albeit I think with a fairly big mortgage, or at least a moderate sized mortgage. I'm not quite sure. I lived in a private home, and we really struggled, and we were one of the poorer. Like, we seemed to have the least money. Like, as I remember, most people I knew had multiple holidays, every year. They had way more. Consequently, it was easier for them to succeed in school, because they were under less stress, financial difficulties particularly. But they put everyone under stress, but they put the parents under a lot of stress, and the kids are sort of less hardened, so it puts them under more stress. So yeah, I don't even know how I got onto this, but I don't know. I don't know sometimes whether it's helpful to talk about it or not helpful to talk about it. Maybe it's how you talk about it. I don't know. But it's amazing how one little thing, someone's saying, do you want, they ask whether I want small or large, and I'm confused, and I just say regular, and it's like, and then rather if they only do small or large, like, why don't they just tell me, we don't do regular, we do small or large? Like, I like order. Maybe that's something I have to let go of. Like, I like things to make sense, I just like things to make sense. Just want to live in a world that just makes sense. Maybe that's something I have to get over, though, because it doesn't make sense. I mean, you can see it. I mean, even when I was in the coffee shop and I was just there and I was just trying to be mindful and aware of what was going on, and I saw so much, you could call it fake nicety. The woman walks in, she's like, oh, you look nice to the lady. The lady's like, oh, regular, da da da. And there's like, I live in Stoke-on-Trent, and particularly here, but everywhere you go, less in London, which is kind of something I miss about London. But you got less small talk in London, and you get a lot of small talk here. And sometimes, like, you get into a taxi or something, which is something I rarely do because I can't really afford it very easily. But when I do get in a taxi, like an Uber, they always want to make small talk with you. And I think sometimes I will just sit there and I will just stare out the window, and I've probably got a really weird expression on my face because that's just, I don't know, the way I am. Or I close my eyes and I kind of try and go into sort of like a little meditation. And they're not used to that. They're used to some sort of small talk or engagement, or someone who's more, the body language shows they want to be more engaged. So I think they tend to feel uncomfortable with that. So they try to engage small talk with me to make them feel more comfortable. And I think it does make them feel more comfortable when I engage in it, but I end up feeling, it makes them feel more comfortable, but I end up feeling uncomfortable because I've just realized I've been roped into a load of small talk that I don't even want to get into, and I don't even know how it started. Like, I didn't want to get into it. I just wanted to sit there, and I didn't want, like, I don't even want a how are you. I don't want, like, what are you doing? Are you, like, I had to take a few things somewhere where I was going, and they were like, are you moving? And then I felt anxious because I didn't want them to like know like there was an empty house for a few days, so I kind of wish they hadn't asked that. And then I feel like, well, I don't want to lie either because that doesn't feel good, that doesn't seem right either. Well, I know it's not right, it's just a bad habit to lie. So it's like, what do I do, you know? And to just ignore someone doesn't work. So, you know, I mean, it's always hindsight tells you what to do. Hindsight makes things, you know, everything's great in hindsight. You know exactly what to do. Like, I'll just say, are you moving? I'll just say, like, how are you? I'll just say, yeah, I'm good. Are you? And it says, are you moving? I just say no. But I'm so programmed. I've been so programmed. I feel I can't just say no. Like, how many people consider no a complete sentence? But no is a complete sentence, and I want to get to that stage. Like, no is a complete sentence. You can't just say no. You don't need to then justify or explain. And I went on to explain. I was like, no, I'm just going somewhere for a few days. And then I started saying, if I was moving, I'd take more than that. But I would like to move because I've got some shithole opposite me that I want to get away from. It's like a dump that like needs redevelopment, and it's like an eyesore. I didn't need to say any of that. You know, no is a complete sentence. But how many people consider no a complete sentence? You know, so, but it is. I may title this video, actually, maybe I'll title this video no is a complete sentence. But yeah, so we're running 18 minutes. Thinking of going home now. And yeah, I need to go to Tesco. I feel like sometimes every day is the same. But look at this garden. Look, that is really nicely landscaped. This is Hanley Park in Stoke-on-Trent. I wish my garden was landscaped like that. That would be so nice. Let's stand in front of it. But yeah, that's pretty cool, isn't it? God, I look tired. That's because I am tired. I slept a lot last night. I needed to catch up on sleep. I was just sleeping. I said this in a previous video, but I was just sleeping, like, and letting this monk talk on my phone. And then what happened in the dream was, like, I have these thermostats downstairs and upstairs, control the heating. I know that's obvious. Don't even know why I said that, but whatever. I just, like, it doesn't really do anything else. Anyway, so it's like, I for some reason, I thought in the dream, like, his voice was coming out the speakerphone, and I thought it was live. And then I thought, I was in the room with him. And then I said, oh, how great, Yutadamu, if these talks could be recorded. Like, and then I woke up and I realized it is a recording, but in the dream it felt live because like I was in the room. And then it went to just the thermostats coming out, the thermostats live, like a tannoy. Like a school bell, but in a good way, like a school tannoy. And then I realized, okay, it is a recording. But it's so funny how these things happen in your dream. And then I realized, okay, that's what that dream is about. Is like, what has that taught me? To appreciate the fact that I have the recording. Because it's the same information. I would rather be in the room learning in person from someone, because I think that is just a profound experience. And I think you just, from someone's body language and demeanor, and you see more of them. It's just more of I think you can be influenced even more intensely in a positive way by that person, by physically being with them. But the fact that we have the recording is an amazing thing. The hard part for me is that the fact that it's on YouTube, and YouTube is so hard for it not to be a distraction, especially when they introduce shorts. It's extremely rare that you ever find a YouTube short or any YouTube video that is really genuinely helpful. I really think actually there are very few honest or genuine or authentic people in this life. Even spiritual people, or people that claim to be spiritual, like, I think when things get mixed in with that, it just takes away the core message. So when an intro with music, there's an intro with music or something, you know, it's like, or singing or something is mixed in. I think just like that should be left out. You know, that should be left out. Or when it goes really like dramatic, like the more I find, like often the more that goes into production, the more that goes into something's production and the way something is presented, the less substance there really is, and the less of a production, the more substance, because there's no need. The substance is there. And if people are ready to hear it, they'll go to hear it. They'll go and listen. And if people are not, then they won't. But if people have to be hooked in, reeled in with a fancy, glitzy, often very pretentious production, then you have to ask yourself, how much substance is there? I'm not saying there, to different degrees, there can be varying amounts of real substance and something of real benefit there that you can learn from. But I don't know. You know, I often question how much substance is there. Although I watched something recently called Dinner for Few. Is it, or Dinner for a Few? No, I think just Dinner for Few. Now, Dinner for Few, there's this cartoon with really incredible animation, and this does include an amazing production. So in a sense, maybe I'm contradicting myself, but this, I think I make exceptions for cartoons because they're not using a lot of the clickbait strategies that include real people, like say sexual provocativeness, because you can do that within a cartoon, especially with AI, but this style of cartoon, if you watch this cartoon, you can see it doesn't include any of that. But there's a lot of symbolism, and it's basically you have to watch it. I don't want to ruin it, but Dinner for Few is a lot of symbolism about the downside of greed and consumerism, and the connections between industry and religious institutions and the money, the military-industrial complex, all of that, and it's all represented with, I'm not going to go into too much of it, but it's represented within, like, pigs are the ones that are consuming everything, and then the cats are sort of like the working class who are just living off the scraps, and then the human who's sort of like using a machine to produce all of that sort of represents the human condition, which is just to constantly exploit one area after another. And then there's a revolution. There's an part that symbolizes the revolution. Okay, I have probably that's probably been a bit of a spoiler, but it's one of these videos. Actually, it gets better every time you watch it because you notice more things and you draw more meaning from it. It sort of really, I don't know, it woke me up because I get consumed by my own wish to be often like to be rich and to be more of a consumer. And this kind of, I look at this and I think, yeah, like this is not a sustainable way forward. Like this is what is causing the problem in the world, like excessive plastic that can't be recycled, excessive plastic contamination, excessive oil contamination, excessive like meat consumption, which is then just destroying the planet. And there's a real, none of these way forward are really truly honest ways forward, because like how many people who say consider, like I used to think, I'd like to have my own, even up until recently, I'd like to have my own organic homestead or like farm, and I have organic chickens and blah blah blah, and I consider, well, meat has a lot of nutritional value, so I questioned whether I could slaughter an animal. And I think, well, I would say the mainstream production of meat is worse. The mainstream production of meat is worse because more animals are getting slaughtered and they're being treated worse. But I asked myself, would it be ever a good idea to kill an animal under any circumstance? And actually, I asked myself, if my child was threatened, if one of my children was under threat by like a grizzly bear, would I shoot the grizzly bear? You can't win in that situation. If you don't shoot the grizzly bear, you don't ever want to be in that situation, because if you don't shoot the grizzly bear, everyone is going to hate you in your life. Everyone's going to think you're terrible because you've let this grizzly bear kill your child. If you do shoot the grizzly bear, you've got forever the guilt weighing on your shoulder of that you've just taken a life of a fellow being. So I really don't know what I'd do in that situation. I'd like to think that we can get to a place in this world where we have a different view of death. We don't sort of like see death as a problem, but we see killing as more of a problem. I think it's more of a problem for humans to kill than it is animals, because animals, they don't have to premeditate to kill. They don't have to distort their mind as much. It's already screwed up. That's why they're been born as an animal. That's why they're a grizzly bear that kills, or a lion that kills. That already enough happened for them to get in that position. Already enough. A lot needs to change. I don't know if I'm off on a tangent here. I don't know how accurate I am with these things, but I often sometimes imagine some of the most difficult positions I could be in, and I ask myself, what would I do? What would be the right thing to do? Buddhism says there's never a reason to kill under any circumstances, and I think that is your child in front of a grizzly bear, and if you don't shoot the grizzly bear is gonna kill your child. Do you let your child die? Or do you become a murderer and kill the grizzly bear? That's a tough one. That's a real tough one. I'd like to think I'd either never be in that position, have had to be in that position. I don't know. I'm going to have to park that, because I don't know if anyone knows what they would do in that situation. I don't know. Of course, I love my children. I never want anything bad to happen to them. But I also don't want to kill a grizzly bear either. But to save a life of a human being, especially your child, I ask one more time, would you kill a grizzly bear? I would like to just tranquilize the grizzly bear. Or let's say, shoot the grizzly bear in the leg and then take it to a vet. So like you haven't killed it. Can you take a grizzly bear to a vet? I don't know. I don't know. They're a bit big, aren't they? So there we go. There's my ramblings for today. And yeah, Fee, another shout out to you. Thanks for your comment. I appreciate that, and I said it already because yeah, I'm just determined now to just go in a completely different direction. I think now the direction I'm going is the direction of like not being emotionally invested in any results. It's very hard to feel like that all the time, but there is a tremendous peace when you have no emotional investment in results. You have no emotional investment in achieving anything, whether it be money, success, status, and you have no problem with people. You're not pushing away anyone or anything, and you're not grasping for anyone or anything. That is true peace. And most people, I think, only try and get there, or only think they can get there by getting everything they want and then cutting everything out of their life that they don't want. But that's a precarious position to be in. Very few people can even achieve that. And if you do achieve that, you're in another prison. You just moved from a grotty prison where you have nothing and you have all the things you don't want, to somewhat of, let's say, a luxury prison. The prison of consumerism. You know, the prison of, for example, being in your mansion where you have acquired everything you could ever want in your life and anyone you could ever want in your life, and you have managed to cut out everything you don't want in your life. Can that ever be maintained? Because death, illness will always come. Your loved ones will eventually die. You will succumb to suffering and death. And then what? Are you going to be reborn in the exact same life again, in a position of privilege, or a position where you can acquire privilege? Probably not. Probably not with such greed and aversion, albeit masked by charm and personality. So we look at these people and we think, oh, no, they're good people, even though they're billionaires, or they're not greedy, they're not angry. Well, of course, their lifestyle is a sedative, in a sense, like the sedative of, in a sense, when you get everything you want, it's like a sedation. It's like a drug. Like, okay, you got all the best food in the world. Okay, you got the best house in the world. Okay, you got the best health in the world, and you're going to live longer than anyone else. Having all of that, knowing that's the position you're in of security, it's a form of sedation. But under that mask, under the hood, you could say, there's still a shitload of greed and anger. And the moment that, if you were to say, take that away from that person, I'm not suggesting you should go and take it away from that person, but let's say that person just lost it through their own actions. They lost all their wealth, they lost their health, they lost their wealth, they lost their health, they lost their status, they lost their looks. You're going to see a lot of greed and a lot of anger awakened, because to wish to grasp for all of that in your life, to accumulate and stack up millions or billions, and to then create your little paradise, if you can call it that, and then the whole, like, so much people in the world are suffering and in poverty and are starving, and you turn a blind eye. They turn a blind eye. So it's greed, and it's an aversion or an unwillingness to share with your fellow human being. And I don't think we get away with anything. I really don't think we ever get away with anything. And on that note, oh look, little magpie under a bench. Don't know if you can see that, feeding off scraps. So on that note, thanks for watching, and Fee, thanks again for the comment and the support, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care. Bye.